All right, we are now talking to Jack Phillips, owner of Masterpiece Cakeshop, and he was sued again and again, right? How many times have you been sued now, Mr. Phillips?
We just had a trial last March, the end of March,
Yeah.
in our third Masterpiece 3, our third lawsuit.
Wow.
So you spend more time baking cakes or getting sued?
Plenty of time doing both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, does that affect your cake making ability when
Seems
you're
like it
having
would.
to constantly go to court?
Well, it has affected us in a number of ways going to court.
Yeah.
The Colorado Civil Rights Commission ruled against us initially that I had to stop, that I had to start making wedding cakes for everybody who came in, regardless of their what the wedding cake was, whether it was a heterosexual couple or a homosexual couple. And I wouldn't be able to even help decide the design on that. So if they wanted a cake with an adult theme or anything like that, I'd be required to do it and give up that free speech aspect of my business. And so that was a decision that we made that was fairly costly.
Yeah, and you guys won in the Supreme Court against the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. And it was that same day that you then had a call about doing a transgender cake or something?
It was actually the day that the court announced that they were going to hear our case.
Okay.
That's a pretty momentous decision right there. And it was a chaotic, crazy day. Lots of press, lots of friends, lots of family coming by. And in the midst of all that confusion, an attorney here in Colorado called us up and requested that we would create a cake that was blue on the outside and pink on the inside. And those colors were to celebrate a gender transition, a changing from man to woman. So we explained to this, it's actually an attorney, and we explained to this attorney that that's not a cake we could create because of the message involved in that. And I couldn't express that message, but we would be glad to serve this attorney anything else in our shop or make other custom work. So it was that very day that the court announced it started the ball rolling for Masterpiece 2 and now Masterpiece 3.
Wow. So, I mean, you look back on the day that it all starts with one small decision, right? Or the first cake you were asked to do. Do you look back on that day and go, man, I wish I had just went ahead and did the cake? Or are you glad? Are you glad that you buckled down and did it? And here you are.
Before we opened up the shop back in 1993 and the years previous to that, as we were planning it, my wife and I would sit down and we would discuss what the cake shop would look like, what kind of things we would sell and which kind of cakes we would design and not design. And on that list would be cakes to celebrate Halloween, or cakes that would be anti-American, or cakes that were racist, or cakes that would insult people. And it didn't matter who that person was. If it was somebody who identified as LGBT, we would create a cake like that. But we also decided way back then in 93, 92, 91, that we wouldn't design cakes to celebrate same-sex weddings. So we had drawn those lines a long time ago. And this wasn't the first cake that we turned away. We turned away, many Halloween cakes through the years, or even adult themed cakes and different things. But when this one came up, we already had practiced in trying to defend our faith and say, I'm sorry, that's a cake that we can't create because of our faith and our relationship to Jesus Christ. We didn't get that far in this conversation, but we were prepared for this kind of conversation right from the start.
Yeah. Well, what's the status of the current lawsuit with the gender transition cake?
We had our trial, like I say, back in March. It was like a 4-day trial. My wife was called to the witness stand. My daughter was. It was all done via Zoom like this with the judge
virtual.
In his chambers. And we were with our attorneys. And it was difficult to watch. I have to sit there with my hands folded on the table pretty much because there's a camera on me, and make sure that I'm not, coaching my wife or my daughter as they're giving their answers. And while the prosecution is basically trying to destroy your testimony and your credibility and your character. And but then to watch my wife and my daughter both, answer the questions thoughtfully and carefully and compellingly. And so we went through all of that and the examination, the cross-examination, and now we're just waiting for the judge to announce a decision on that. It could come today or tomorrow or June or July. There's not a timeline.
Have you ever tried to sway anybody in court by secretly offering them free cake?
No, but
that'd sway me. I throw all my
too much respect for our court system. I think we have a wonderful legal system, court system.
Ethan is not a
it's-
lawyer, and he cannot
I'm not a
offer
lawyer.
legitimate legal advice. Just so disregard everything he says.
Okay, done.
What's the evidence that any of these people? I've only heard these mostly about your story through conversation with people, talking about it, and I know that
Mhm.
I've heard that there's evidence that's you're being targeted. That it seems like a lot of these people are. There's cake shops everywhere around where you are. They could easily go somewhere else. They're targeting you. They figured out that they could get you, and they just won't leave you alone. Is that
Yeah, there is a wonderful cake shop right across the street from us. In our Supreme Court briefs and documents, we noted that there are 67 bakeries in Denver, not only that will create a cake for a same-sex wedding, they advertise that they will. And so there's no shortage of bakeries around that would give these two men their request. In fact, they ended up with a cake that was designed with rainbow layers in the cake when you cut into it, and it was given to them for free. So there was no shortage.
Yeah, and it might be good for me to jump in here and give a little bit of background about Jack's most recent case, I should say. You
Well,
talk
cake
about
works too. So I mean,
case, it's all the same thing at this point, right? But you mentioned how activists have been basically using laws to harass people like Jack, and that's exactly what happened in this most recent litigation. This attorney called Jack on the exact same day that the U.S. Supreme Court decided to hear Jack's first case. And the custom cake was to be blue and pink and to celebrate a gender transition. But it wasn't the first time that this attorney called Jack. This attorney contacted Jack back in 2012, calling him a bigot and a hypocrite, and then called again on the same day the U.S. Supreme Court decided to hear Jack's case. And then this attorney called back again a couple of months later to request a custom cake depicting Satan smoking marijuana. So what we're seeing is that activists are using the justice system, using laws to try to punish people they disagree with, and it's just harassment.
Jack, did you make the Satan joint cake?
No, that's obviously a cake that we couldn't create.
You
That's a
couldn't do
message
that one?
that I wouldn't design for anybody. So no, we've turned away cakes. In the end of our building here, there's a store that sells marijuana paraphernalia, those kind of things, and they requested that we create marijuana-shaped cookies to celebrate. April 20th is the day that marijuana was legalized here, and to celebrate that. So that's another kind of thing that we have to decline. But people request those, and when we tell them no, usually it just goes away. Or in the case of David and Charlie, the two men that came in, we didn't have a chance to discuss it. I wish we could have, but 20 seconds later, they were gone, and we were off to the court.
What about Satan getting punched in the face? Would you do that cake?
No.
Oh,
What?
I'm just checking trying to figure out.
We got to find the line.
Where's the line?
There's a lot of hypothetical cakes that you can come up with.
I'm sure they've all been thrown at you.
Yeah.
Is Satan smoking a joint the weirdest request you've ever gotten?
It's one of the weirdest.
One of the weirdest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had some really graphically violent cakes that people have asked me to create, testing us and
Trying to test you. Yeah.
Yeah. So will you do this or that? Like, depends on the message. No, that's a message I can't promote. Can't express.
Did you get a lot of support from like friends and family when you decided to take a stand, or were people coming out of the woodwork and telling you, "Don't do it, just bake the cake, man"?
Both ways. We had
Both ways.
A ton of people, friends that would say you should make the cake, and it's drawn our family closer together. But one surprising source of support was a radio station was doing their broadcast from our shop all day back in like 2013. And the first person to come in that morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, introduced himself, says, "My name's Mike Jones, and I'm a gay man. And, hi, Mike, I'm Jack. What can I do for you?" We talked, and he came back later on in the day, and then he's been back again since. And I've since learned that this man was a former gay activist, and he wanted to see who this man is who won't serve a gay couple. But we've since become friends. And when we had our third trial back in March, he testified on our behalf, to show that, I serve everybody. I just can't express every message people ask me to. So that was one of the more unique, aspects of, the public's support or not towards us.
Yeah, it's so bizarre that we're in this place where it should be so obvious that a person can express whatever opinion they do or do not want to express. And it feels like you're just being the one who's being made an example of, but that there's this whole movement where there are people that want this to be to change, where speech is policed, I guess, is the best way to put it.
And every American should have the right to live and work according to their conscience without fear of punishment from the government. Creative professionals like myself should have the right to say, I can't express that message. Can we work something else out? But fortunately, like ADF has been there right from the start. 4 days after David and Charlie stormed out of my shop, ADF was there to help with legal assistance and guidance. And a lot of people don't know this, but ADF does all their work for their clients pro bono, meaning they've never charged me a dime. But it's not free. It's cost a lot of money and a lot of hours and a lot of work, and we're grateful for God providing that aspect of this.
A lot of your life, hours of your life.
Yeah, years of your life.
Yeah, it's been almost 9 years now.
Wow.
Wow, 9. Holy.
9 years ago, yeah.
Jeez.
That's wild. Did you bake ADF a cake?
We've had some different things with ADF, yeah.
Okay. All right. He's not at liberty to say. So you wrote a book.
Yeah, book.
The Cost of My Faith: How a Decision in My Cake Shop Took Me to the Supreme Court. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my first thought when I was approached with the idea of writing a book, The Cost of My Faith, was, that might not be a bad idea. I'm not a writer, I'm an artist, but had some help, and writing it turned out to be quite a good deal of fun. But when I first thought about doing it, it's like, I want my kids and my grandkids to know, what happened that day. What's the truth? Because it's difficult to find, truthful stories online. You can find any story you want. So I wanted to put it in writing. But then I realized what a platform I have. Hopefully many people will read this book and have an understanding of what happened. Did I serve everybody? I just couldn't create this cake, and how I paired my love of art growing up. That was something I always loved to do: draw and paint and color and sculpt in high school classes, and all taking all the classes that I could in the art room, and then needing a job and ending up in a job working at a bakery, a large wholesale bakery, a large place with conveyor belts full of donuts and things like that a man that lived across the street from me owned. And just joining those two loves together and knowing that someday I would open my own bakery. And then this bakery owner bought out another bakery and brought in cake decorators, and I had never seen that. And so I knew right then what my future was. I was going to open my own shop, and I would use cake as a canvas, and I would create custom artwork on cakes to help people celebrate ideas. And I even knew what my cake shop would be called. It would be Masterpiece Cake Shop, because masterpiece says art and cake shop says cakes. So you wouldn't come in looking for a loaf of bread or a pie, and hopefully we'd be able to celebrate that way. In fact, shortly after we opened, I have an article hanging up on the wall in the store that a local newspaper wrote about us and our grand opening and all. It said, walking into Masterpiece Cake Shop was like walking into an art gallery of cakes. And bingo, that's what I want to do: art and cakes.
Have you had any issues with, obviously you have a store on a street, a place people can find, and there's all this anger online. Do you have to have like a SWAT team that guards your store? Like how bad is it people showing up?
There have been protests. We've had 4 protests outside the store, and we've had, store vandalized and different things, hateful phone calls. I tell about one story in The Cost of My Faith where a man called me up one morning and said, I'm on my way to your shop. I've got a gun.
Oh, geez.
Wow, what a sicko.
I'm going to come and blow your head off, which
Jeez.
I know where I'm going. I'm not afraid to go, but my daughter was here and my 3-year-old granddaughter. I didn't want them to be around. So you go hide in the back while I call the police. And the police came and tried to trace the call. That never could. But that story is written in The Cost of My Faith, and just different things like that. But we've had so much other good support. People realize that these liberties, these freedoms that we cherish are important. And if they go away, they're not coming back. So we'll do our best to explain some of those important things in The Cost of My Faith as well.
Does it feel like because I know that a lot of these issues, there's a group of people that are very on the side of which seems like irrational, that you need to force cake makers to do whatever message you tell them to do, which they would not want to do if they were supposed to make pro-life cakes or whatever. But in your general just experience of real people in real life, do you feel like it's overwhelmingly the common people see things the way you do, that people should have this freedom?
I can't speak for everybody, but we've had so much support from just people that come by the shop, way outnumbering the people who are against us. But we still have a fight ahead of us, and we're still willing to draw those lines and stay on this side of the line, and as pray that God gives us the strength and the wisdom to know what to do and when to do it, or not to do, and when not to do it.
Guys, I think you bring up a really good point there. The same principle that we're advocating for in court that protects Jack is the same principle that would protect, for example, an LGBT website designer. That person should not be forced by the government to create websites for a church promoting traditional marriage. The government shouldn't have that kind of power. In the same way, the government shouldn't force Jack Phillips to create custom cakes expressing messages that go against his core beliefs. So in this way, the principle we want and that we're advocating for in courts protects everyone.
Right.
It even protects the two men that sued me the first time and the person suing me this time around. Those rights are going to be valuable to them someday, and we hope to keep them.
It seems mind-numbingly obvious that that's the way things should be. I don't even know how to. It's so bizarre. But okay.
Yeah. Well. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Mr. Phillips. Your book is out now, so everyone check that out. The Cost of My Faith.
Available in cake shops everywhere.
And at least in one.
At least in one.
If you ever need a satirical article written about you, we're the guys to do that. So we'll do it for you.
You've written about us a couple of times.
Yeah, we have. So pro bono, we'll do pro bono work for you. And then
the last one about the 2 lines of people, that was funny.
Awesome. This is
see, he read your article.
He read it. We just request a Babylon Bee cake.
Yeah.
Does that go against your conscience, or?
It's not something I could ship to you. I don't even know where you're calling from.
So we have to come. We have to come
out there.
All right.
Welcome you to my shop, just like I welcome and serve everybody.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Well, thanks a lot, Jack. Hi, I'm Kyle Mann, Editor-in-Chief of the Babylon Bee. As Amazon continues to crack down on conservative books, it's more important than ever to put your money where your values lie. So I just want to take this opportunity to say, keep spending that dough at Amazon. They're doing great. Don't subscribe to the Babylon Bee. We don't want your money. Are you going to let me go now, Mr. Bezos?